Welcome and welcome back, everybody. I'm Charlie Lambden. This is Moving Him with Charlie, and that is Daniel Hamilton Charlton from Property Search Direct, who I have partnered with to provide my followers who would like to get their own property search pack a place to get them from, somewhere that I trust, which is fair and where it's backed up by this man on the screen here. Now, we have just recorded a short version of this video, which is about 6 minutes long, where we just give you the essentials. So if you don't want to hear the nitty-gritty details about why you should want to get a search pack yourself immediately when you buy a house, then go and I will link to it at the end of this video or in the description below why you need search packs. But for the rest of you, this video is going to be a long, relaxed chat about property search packs, everything you need to know, and all of Daniel's recommendations for buyers about why you should want a search pack and why you might want to take control of the process of a search pack away from your conveyancer. You might not. You might be happy to let your conveyancer take care of the search pack because they normally do. You might go, actually, I want to see it. I want to know it's bought on time. I want to see what's in it. I don't want to wait until too late down the line to find out there's a problem. So with that in mind, Daniel, let's just also assume people haven't seen that other video and start from the top about what's a search pack, why you need it, but you're not against the clock this time.
Okay, because that was all a bit of a rush. So what is a search pack? A search pack is something that you'll usually see, and you'll first hear of it in your quote you get from a conveyancer, and it's down in the disbursement somewhere, and it tends to have been fobbed off as just a thing that they need that sort of satisfy the lenders. And the reason why I established Property Searches Direct 3 and a bit years ago was to change that mentality of, oh, this is someone else's problem, when actually the fallout of some of the content really do mean things to owner occupiers or purchasers. So a search pack is a bundle of products that are, let's talk about a minimum requirement. The minimum requirement for a lender, these are the 3 things that a lender will need to sort of tick off to say they've seen them and they've understood the risk profile within that property before they will give you that final mortgage offer. So it's really important that they receive the local authority search, and we'll go into some details of what that is, an environmental report, and again, we can talk in a moment about what that is, and a drainage and water report. Those are the 3 things that form the basis of a search bundle. And some of those reports could lead to you requiring other reports being ordered for whatever reason, and again we can talk about those. But a search pack is a bundle by minimum requirements: local authority search, drainage and water report, and an environmental report, because they are required. If you are buying a property and you're using a mortgage company, so you're getting a mortgage, then you're going to have to buy a set of searches.
Okay, brilliant. And what do they typically cost?
Wow,
they
do.
What's the range? I mean, like, what are the highest people? Like, when people are being ripped off, how much are they paying? What's the mid-range?
Let me tell you. Right. So there's some. So my long in the tooth when it comes to searches. So there are some pitfalls when it comes to searches. If you get a quote from a solicitor and you look at the searches and it says your search pack £120, panic. Or realize immediately that they are buying you some screening products, stuff that will literally just screen the evidence and will probably suggest that you need to then buy more reports. Okay. A proper search bundle, something that's actually going to probably answer the questions first time round, I would suggest the range is probably somewhere between 290 or 285 to sort of £350. If you get things in that sort of range, you're kind of okay. You can expect that you're going to buy a sensible bundle of products and you're going to get a sensible set of answers. If you start to go above that significantly, you've got to question who else is benefiting from the money you're spending on them. There may well be panel managers or other introducers, someone else making money on the searches that isn't actually giving you the best value for money. So there is a sort of a range. People usually say it's around £300. That's about a fair price for a set of searches. But I would always say, knowing what they are, what's included in that. If you're going to charge me £400, what am I actually getting? Is it just the basics? Is it screening products, or is it a proper set of searches? So yeah.
Cool. Now you mentioned local authority searches, which is, I think, most people, when they hear, if they don't know anything about search packs and conveyancing, local authority searches, hang on, isn't that the thing that can cause a delay? And I have actually ready to share on the screen, if you're okay with it, the web page from your website with
Oh,
the
okay.
turnaround warnings.
Yeah, I'd like to explain that. We've got a video that we put on one of our pages about turnaround warnings. Now, this is the conveyancer's best kept secret, or the whole property industry's best kept secret, that 3 years ago we said, let's make this public knowledge. It was really important that we put this out there, because when it comes to buying a property, and if you just scroll down a little bit and look at Boston, let's look at Bolton Metropolitan Council. So Bolton. So if you're
Yeah.
in Bolton, or you're in Bolsover. So if you're in Bolsover and you're buying a property, you know that your regulated search is going to come back in 8 working days, and your council source search, if that's a particular requirement of a very specific lender, is going to come back in 10 working days. But if you're living in Bolton and you're ordering your local searches, then you've got 70 working days for a regulated search and 142 for a council source search. Now, you can imagine if you're buying a property, where are we now, in May, agreeing a purchase today, and you're saying, right, we've got kids to worry about, we've got school holidays, we want to be moving at some point in the summer holiday. The estate agent that has no idea in Bolton that that's how long the searches are taking, are going to say, yeah, no problem at all, you'll be in by the summer holidays, no problem at all, let's move you by August. You'll be lucky to get in by Christmas.
Right.
That's the reality of it. So search delays are a real thing. And we've started to highlight the fact that we've said anything 30 working days plus should be challenged, or is going to highlight a risk, because that's 6 weeks. You would expect to get these bundles back within 6 weeks, but invariably you can't. So Bridgend, you'll see if your solicitor is ordering a search from the council, it's going to take on average 31 working days. If they use a moving home with Charlie local authority search, it's going to come back within 7 working days. So you can see that sometimes getting the moving home with Charlie pack is going to be quicker than a council source search. The only difference between these searches are who does it. That's it. A council source search is using the resources at the council to pull all that data together. And a regulated search is using one of our agents camped outside one of the local authorities, making an appointment, going in and trawling the data themselves and reporting that data in an easy to read format. So those are the differences. The content of those searches are the same.
So would you say that a lack of knowledge of the difference in how long local authority searches can take to come back is one of the big gotchas, curveballs that comes at buyers that aren't aware that this is a thing?
Estate agents, I'm not going to upset any estate agents. So any agents listening, just
Leave that to me. I do that.
just take this on the chin.
Oh my God.
We put a mailing list together and put a weekly update of search turnaround timescales to thousands of estate agents. All right. Hundreds each week would unsubscribe because it wasn't of interest to them. Not unimportant. I don't get involved in that. Right. For me, that is business critical. If I'm talking to a seller who says, I want to be moved by Christmas, or I'm going abroad by a certain time, I want to know what's going to derail that transaction, and I want to share that information. So it's vital that people do know these timescales. Everyone has a timescale involved. You're buying a property, chances are someone in that chain, or someone, seller or buyer, is moving for a reason. It could be you want to be in by a wedding. You could be wanting to move abroad for work, or changing area, whatever it may be. There's chances of there's a timescale. If your searches are going to be the absolute thing that's going to derail that, then it's going to come as a shock if you don't know that right at the outset. So
Right.
it's
So
really
what you're
important
saying
you
is
know that.
those estate agents who are showing no interest in these figures are missing a trick, because those delays lead to deals falling through, which costs them money. So it's almost a demonstration that the agent doesn't even understand
It's
part of the process.
anxiety as well. I mean, you think about there's a whole load of uncertainty in England and Wales when it comes to buying and selling property, and we want to demystify it to a degree. And search delays, a conveyancer admitted openly on a recorded video the other day that sometimes he just likes to hide behind the fact the searches aren't back yet because he wants to get other stuff done.
Right.
Really? Okay. But other times agents will say, it's no problem at all. You'll be in okay. And they'll be picking up the phone to the conveyancer saying, what's the delay? What's going on? Oh, the searches aren't back yet. And they'll just call their client, say the searches aren't back yet. It's okay.
Okay.
They have no idea that it could be another 5-6 weeks. If they knew that, why would they be chasing for searches? And they'd be saying these searches aren't coming back for 6 weeks. Everyone should know that. This shouldn't come as a shock to everybody. Everyone's expectation should have been met the day we agreed this sale. And you as a buyer should have that information to say, look, you want me to move in 2 weeks, but I'm using a mortgage. It's all very well saying, yes, I've got everything in place. I'll move in 2 weeks. If the searches aren't coming back within 1 week, you don't have a hope in hell.
Yeah. So given the fact that if you're buying with a mortgage, this is an unavoidable requirement anyway.
Yes.
The only way as a buyer to be certain that you're not exposing yourself to other people's delays is to order a search pack yourself the day your offer is accepted. Or to get your conveyancer to agree to do the same thing.
Exactly. So I always say, right, I get quite travel sick. Right. If I'm a passenger in a vehicle, particularly if I'm in the back of the car and I don't know what's going on, I will have that headache, that nausea, that, oh, can we just stop? I want to get out. Horrible. Doesn't happen when I'm driving. I don't get travel sick when I'm driving and I'm in control and I can see what's going on and I make all the decisions. It's exactly the same when it comes to conveyancing and buying and selling property. If you're not in control, nausea sets in and you start to be concerned about the other party.
Stress, real stress.
Real stress. Happening. So you get that sort of travel sickness. I'm fed up with this. Right. If you start to take control and participate and understand more about what's going on, that travel sickness is less likely to kick in. So you need to understand what these things are, how participation can really help, and why you might be interested in some of the answers in the documents that you're going to get back. So don't be a passenger when it comes to conveyancing. Do drive the whole process because it's you, it's your money, it's your property you're going to live in. And you really should be thinking more about, oh, just tell me when I can pick up the keys. You should be fascinated by all the little things that are happening along the way because they're all doing it for you and the lender. And the lender at the moment is more fascinated by those answers than most buyers, which I think is very wrong. You shouldn't be just worried about whether you can afford the mortgage. You should be worried about whether it's the right property for you to buy and what problems you could be inheriting and whether you want to continue with that purchase.
So am I right in saying that sometimes the search will reveal problems that become an obstruction to the transaction that could have been discovered a lot sooner?
Yes. Well, should we understand what a local search is?
Okay.
And people say it's an LLC one, it's a Con 29. So a local search comes in two parts. The LLC one, don't worry about what that is. It covers a number of set questions. So things like, off the top of my head, tree preservation orders, listed building status, conservation areas since 1974, smoke control areas, conditional planning permissions, community infrastructure levy charges, financial charges registered against the property, planning enforcement notices. So there's a lot of stuff there. TPOs, tree preservation orders, are something that, again, you may look at a garden and go, oh, that tree's fantastic. I'm going to put a tree house up there. You might equally turn around and go, well, that tree's in the wrong place. I want to get rid of that and put a summer house there. Well, if there's a tree preservation order on that, you won't be able to do those things. If it's a listed building, you kind of want to know how listed the building is. Is it grade 1, grade 2? Because again, your plans for what you may want to do to that property could change significantly depending on its listing status. Smoke control areas. Oh, this is great. I'm going to put a big open fire in here, a wood burning stove, and all these sorts of things. Well, in a smoke control area, you've got to think very carefully about what you can and can't do. So if you've got all these wonderful ideas and what you're going to do in that property is have certain things, well, there may be things that are going to be borne up in the local authority search that may change your opinion on what you can or can't do and may reflect on whether you want to continue with that purchase or not. The other thing, so the Con 29, the second part of a local search is going to include things like planning history. So what the history of planning has been on the property. So if you're buying a property that is, let's say it's a 4-bedroom or was originally a 4-bedroom end of terrace house, it's now split into 2 flats and you're fortunate enough to be buying both. The local authority search comes back and there's no indication of any planning history whatsoever of that nature, you've got to question whether that was done legitimately. Building control regulations. So again, whether things have been signed off appropriately for the work that you know is being done. highway information, including scheme proposals. So that could mean, living on a nice quiet road, and that's fantastic. However, highways information suggests that that's going to be a dual carriageway within a couple of years. Well, hold on a minute. I don't want to be looking out. I don't want to be living on a massive main road. Right now, it's a nice quiet A road, but now it's going to be a dual carriageway. So you need to know about that stuff. So tree preservation orders or proposed tree preservation orders. So even if there isn't a TPO on the tree in the garden, it may come up in the proposed listings. So again, you need to know about that. And proposed planning enforcements or breach of condition notices, you might want to know about that. Rail schemes, public footpaths on definitive maps. There's a whole rake of things in a local authority search that you really should know about that could really change your opinion as to whether you're going to buy that property. Now, the options are at the moment, leave it to your conveyancer, right? That conveyancer is not worried about a TPO. They're not worried about whether a tree preservation may come into that property. They're not worried about all sorts of things. Now, they might highlight it to you when they report to you, when you're ready to exchange contracts and you get this tree's worth of paperwork and you've got to sign it. How many people pour through the searches to actually find out what's going on? Not many. Everyone reaches through the bundle where it says sign here, you sign it. Why? Because you want the quickest route to pick up your keys. But how many times do we know of people that have ended up buying properties and realize that they come up against problems? I can't do the extension I wanted. I can't remove that tree. My goodness, all these things that come up. When you go, hang on, if you'd found that out within 15 days of agreeing that purchase, would you have continued with that purchase? And if the answer is no, then that's one of the reasons why you really should have taken control of your searches.
So in your opinion, whether you're buying with a mortgage or not,
we have cash buyers that will come to us. We have investors, and we have a cash buyer due diligence report, which is a blend of 70% of the local authority search data, and we indemnify the rest. And we complete those reports in about 24 hours. So we're getting a best of both for cash investors, which gives them an understanding of the biggest pitfalls or problems that there could be with a bit of a hug from the insurance. But there are still a lot of cash buyers that we deal with that go the whole hog and buy everything. Why? Because their money is really valuable to them. They don't want to chuck money down a literal black hole. They want it to be a proper investment, and they want to make sure that they're not inheriting any pitfalls or any problems. So getting those searches, even for a cash buyer, is really vital. For the same reason a bank will want to see those searches. Is this something I want to throw my money and risk into? And it should be the same for you. Even though you're putting 5, 10, 15, 25% down, whatever it may be, that's your money and that's your vision of your home that you want to make sure is right for you.
And so when someone buys a property back, especially if they buy it through us, some stuff comes back almost immediately, doesn't it? Within a few hours. Some takes a day or two, and then there are other parts that can take up to a week or two, depending.
So as I said, there's 3 parts. So the local authority search is the bit that takes the most effort, which involves one of our agents visiting the local council, having made an appointment, and trawling through the data and pouring through the evidence and compiling a report that is easy to read. There's a lovely summary front page. That's the bit that takes the longest. Now, that can take 2 days. It could take 30 days, 70 days, 146 working days. So depending on which council you're at, which is why it's really vital you should look at the timescales, the turnaround timescales we've got. The environmental report, which I really get excited by, is the bit that's got instant gratification.
Okay.
On our website, I think Charlie's going to be looking at these at some point as well. We have our search alerts. These are hazard alerts, and these are things that evidence environmental impact data that can affect a postcode area. Okay, so that could be flooding, contaminated land. It could be coastal erosion. It could be energy and infrastructure challenges. It could be ground stability. There's all sorts of things that can impact a property. The environmental reports that Moving Home with Charlie is delivering is the landmark EnviroSearch Residential, which is a brilliant report for a number of reasons. One, it covers contaminated land. It contains a full flood risk profile. It contains screening for energy and infrastructure. It gives you a clear indication of ground stability, radon, and any other environmental influential factors that can affect your idea of buying a property. Now, if you are buying a property, when you're buying a property, you want to know some significant challenges that could affect you. Flooding is on everybody's radar. No one wants to buy a property that is going to flood. One, because it's a massive headache. Two, because your insurance premiums are going to go through the roof. So I always say to people that are buying a property, first thing you should do before you spend any money, ideally when you go to do a viewing, put the postcode in the hazard checker and run the report, and for free, get the environmental impact risk profile. Because what you can then do at the viewing is eyeball the owner and say, flood risk is an element in this area that is causing a problem. Are you aware of any flooding? Now that's from rivers or the coast, or indeed flash flooding from surface water. Have you ever had problems with flooding? And they may go, I thought you wouldn't find that out. Or they may go, no, not at all. But you kind of need to have those questions, because the estate agent is unlikely to tell you that this property has got problems. So in some areas, flood risk is a challenge. The environmental reports that Moving Home with Charlie Pack contains complete, as long as they're not referred, they complete in about 15 to 25 minutes. They're really quick through our API. So it's instant gratification. The minute you place the order, it goes through to our mapping team, it gets submitted through our API, and that report is pulled out straight and sent out to you and your conveyancer by email. And that is a really easy to read, flagged up report that tells you exactly what the risk profile of that property is. And if there are any issues, it spells out exactly what things you should be doing next if there are issues. But the environmental impact is real. It's real stuff. The other thing I talked about, not contaminated land, ground stability or instability. If you're buying in certain areas of the country, then there are pockets of land that may be built on London clays or particular soils where there is shrink, and you hear of subsidence or you hear of heave. You need to, when you're thinking about your survey, think about the level of survey that you should have. Your environmental report will suggest to you what the ground stability of a particular property is and what sort of survey you should be commissioning. Because what the surveyor is then going to do is not go around and just say, is this property worth what it's worth? They're going to look at it and look for cracking and movement and historic movement. They're going to check the mortar points, and they're going to advise you whether there has been historic movement on that property, either from subsidence or heave. Why do you want to know that? Because if it's been underpinned, it may be the safest property on the street, but again, your insurance is going to be elevated. And if it hasn't been underpinned, but it's likely to succumb to heave or subsidence, it's a major inconvenience and expense to have to underpin your property. And then it comes with the challenges of then insurability. So you kind of need to have the survey, the home buyer survey, that's going to look at historic movement if your property is in an area that's susceptible to ground stability. But how would you know that? I'm not aware of any estate agent opening the front door and going, oh, by the way, flood risk is a problem here and ground stability is a real issue. And by the way, look out for radon.
Yeah.
Never going to be said.
No.
So free, get the risks. But if you're wanting to commit to your property transaction and you need that environmental report within about 15 or 20 minutes before you spend any more money, you'll have those answers and you can understand the risk profile for yourself. And if you don't understand anything, we're on the end of the phone to help answer those questions. Then you'll know exactly where you're at. And you're either going to be freaking out and having another conversation with the estate agent and the seller about renegotiating, or having more conversations about that, or you're going to be going, I've got nothing to worry about. Let's crack on.
Yeah.
Good news being the conveyance has already got that report and they're now under pressure to get the job done.
And you're in the driving seat.
Absolutely.
As you said.
Yeah. In the driving
seat. I think one more thing worth discussing, and then I think we should wrap it up.
Well, we haven't talked about drainage and water, but yes, go on then.
Okay, we've got, if we can wrap it up in 6 minutes, it'd be cool, but here we are. Okay. Recently, there was an experiment done, wasn't there, where I think 2 different companies done the experiment where they've offered buyers the opportunity to buy their search packs up front or immediately. And what were the results of that? Because I think you know off the top of your head, don't you, the results of that?
Yeah, so let's just talk about Four Corners. So Four Corners Property effectively deal with the flow of conveyancing work into a number of conveyancers, and they offered 200 purchasers the opportunity to buy their searches up front. 25% of those said, yes, absolutely. That's a great thing. I want to do that. If it means moving my deals forward, then let's crack on. Of that 25%, 100% of those transactions completed, no
Okay.
fall throughs, and so there were no fall throughs, and they completed. I think the average was or it was like 70 working days or 75 working days. So they more than halved the time at which it took for actually those transactions to go through. Right? You can't argue
No,
with those figures.
it's staggering.
That's
So
a fact.
they double the chances of the transaction succeeding and not falling through.
Well, they eliminated the fall through because there were
Right.
no
Yeah.
fall throughs
So
of
yeah,
that section. There
on
were no
average.
fall
Okay.
throughs. Yeah,
So they halved the time. That's right. They halved the time it took to get the
that's right.
transaction completed.
Yeah.
And none of them fell through.
None of them fall through. Now, there is a little bit of, you've got to think about what
What were
that
the
means.
figures on? What were the fall through figures on the rest? Do you know? On the other
43%.
43% of the ones who didn't
The
get their
ones
pack,
who didn't. Yeah.
their deal fell through.
Yeah.
And how long did they take? Do you remember the figure on that? Rather than
I wish
7
I'd focused on that, but I didn't.
Okay.
But it was the sort of
Much longer,
nearly
yeah.
200 days or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah, because Rightmove's average is around 160 days, isn't it? So
Yeah, whatever it is.
if you can do it in 70 days rather than 150 or 160, that's 80 days. I mean, that's bloody nearly 3 months faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Would you like to be in your house 3 months sooner or not? Like, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
we had a client a few months ago that was absolutely motivated to get things done. Fortunately, she was buying a chain-free property. She bought her searches and completed in 12 days.
That's amazing.
Right, 12 days.
So drainage and water searches.
So drainage and water is the third report that will come through. So a drainage and water report is what it says on the tin. It's looking at the drainage and water. So where is your water coming from? Is it mains connected, or are you pulling water from a well? And there are properties that do pull water from a well. And are you connected to the mains sewer? Is your foul water, so your the stuff running off the roof and going down, is that going into the sewer? Is that going to a soakaway? Are you connected to the mains drains? When you flush the toilets, is that being taken off your property, or is that going somewhere else? So that's what that's going to do. The other thing that report will identify is where the mains infrastructure runs. You cannot build over the water authority's sewers and things unless you have build over agreements and other things like that, but effectively you can't build over them. So if you want to put foundations and the sewers aren't that deep, you simply can't put foundations there. So if you are thinking about extending a property and you get a drainage and water report that shows where the main infrastructure is and it's running through your boundary, now these are not pinpoint accurate, but they are going to suggest that there are infrastructure running through your boundary. You're going to put the screechers on and go, okay, right, if the infrastructure is in my property, I need to know exactly where, because this could seriously impact whether I can extend this property or not. So drainage and water report will help you to identify that. It'll also help you to ask questions about, well, if I'm not connected to the main sewer, what does that actually mean? Is it a soakaway? Is it a cesspit? What are the costs of that? Do I have to maintain that? Is it adequate enough for the property? If I'm extending, is that going to cater for 4 bedrooms when it's currently a 2-bed? There's all sorts of questions that can come out of a drainage and water report. Things that you need to know about really early in the transaction, because if you're going to buy that property for all those reasons and extend and what have you, and you're thinking, well, my budget's are this, and if that drainage and water comes back with serious challenges, you're going to change your mind. So drainage and water reports, on average, they're taking about 4 working days, 4 or 5 working days. So, quite early into that transaction, before anyone spent too much money, that's going to help satisfy you for those. But you can start to see why all of these things are important to you as a buyer. You don't want to be on the back seat of this transaction and ignore this stuff to have all these nasty surprises at some point down the line. You need to order this stuff. You need to find out what it is and understand it and absorb it, so you know what your property is all about.
Cool. Okay. So for people who don't want to get their search packs through us, just make sure your conveyancer orders your search pack without delay is a recommendation, and ask to see a copy of it.
You should. I mean, yes. I would say if I weren't ordering searches myself, I would say, could you please send them to me as they come in to you?
Yes. Okay. I want to see my search packs that I'm paying for
as they come in. So, I mean, there are reasons. Gosh, do we want to go there?
No. So your conveyancer may turn around to you and say, well, you might want to hold off for this, that, or the other reason. Okay. And if they do, then so be it. I get that.
The other important thing is when you order a search pack through Moving Home with Charlie or us, we will distribute the reports as they complete. Unlike many conveyancers who will say, I don't want to see any of it until the last one comes in. They usually don't want to be back in and out of a file. They usually say, well, look, I don't want to see the environment. I don't want to see the drainage and water. I don't want to see I just want to see everything when the local search comes in. Again, if the local search takes 120 working days, they've been sat on drainage and water and enviro for 120 working days.
So again, take control of it. Say to, I don't know what you want, Mr. Conveyancer. I would like to see all the researches as they come in, so I can find out whether or not there are any deal breakers sooner rather than later, and move on with my search elsewhere if I need to. So currently, at the time of recording, our pack is £299. You can get it at that link down there that's underneath. Can you do that on your camera? Because it's
right there.
Yeah.
Right there we go. Cool.
That's where you can get it. If you want to get one through us, which I believe is one of the best priced packs out there, so you might also be saving money. And also with that pack, if you've got questions or problems come up, Dan's team are there to support you in that with that pack. And you would also provide, if anyone who buys it gives you the email address of their conveyancer, you will also deliver it directly to the conveyancer without delay.
Absolutely. So the minute you get the report, if you provided Charlie with details of your conveyancer, it goes to you and your conveyancer at the same time. And all I would say is, because conveyancers tend to be creatures of habit, if you're taking control of ordering your searches, for goodness sake, tell them that you're taking control of your searches so they don't duplicate, because you will end up paying twice. If you go to instruct a conveyancer and they're asking for money on account, but you want to buy your own searches, question that, because if they're asking for £350 as a purchaser on account, chances are they're earmarking that money for your searches. So say to them, I'm buying my own searches. I don't need to give you that money on account. Can I pay you less? And chances are they say, yes, £50 to open the file. That's fine. There may be all sorts of things they question, but we do have some downloadable documents that you can send to your conveyancer if they freak, that'll just satisfy them about what actually you're doing.
So the conveyancing partners we are using are going to be using our search packs. So
absolutely,
if you want to, you can also just go to mhwc.co.uk/conveyancing to use the conveyancers that we've partnered with, who will also be using Dan's search packs as well. Brilliant. Anything else you want to add, or can we wrap this up?
Go for it. I'm sure there'll be 1,001 other questions. I would say ask any questions you've got, put them down below here, and we'll answer them.
I'm going to put links to everything we've discussed in the description under this video. So wherever you're watching this video, you should be able to find the information that we've talked about in the links underneath it. Otherwise, if you want to get your property pack through us, there's the link on screen to get it. And it's you can order it online right now. Otherwise, make sure that your conveyancer, ask them, is there any reason not to buy your search pack through them, whoever they buy it through, but get it quickly so that you can, and ask to see it so that you can find out if there's anything in there that you should be worried about when purchasing a property. Dan, thank you so much. Wicked, brilliant.
My pleasure.
I love these videos with you where we can just hit it in a oneer and publish it and don't need to edit it.
Go for it.
Fantastic. But thanks everyone for watching. Share this video with anyone else that needs to see it. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks. Bye, Dan.
Bye. Bye.